Hi everyone, and welcome to July's AdEspresso webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be focusing on Google Ads, and we're going to be looking at a full funnel strategy approach. And this is going to be with one of our regular contributors to these webinars, Gianluca. A lot of you already know about Gianluca from those previous webinars, but if not, he's going to give himself an introduction in a second. But before I hand over to him, just a little bit of housekeeping that we always do, because we always get asked if we're going to be recording the session. Yes, we are. So we'll try and send this to everyone by email afterwards. But if you don't receive it for whatever reason, we upload them to adespresso.com/webinars, always within 24 hours, but usually within a couple of hours. Also check out our YouTube channel, just search for AdEspresso and you can see our channel there. And we've got all the back webinars. This is a very interactive session. We try and answer as many questions as possible. Myself and my colleague Tori are going to be monitoring chat today. So any questions, just let us know. You'll see in GoToWebinar, depends whether you're logging into the web interface or the separate app, but you should see a question box, so put your questions in there. We'll get to as many as possible at the end. So it gives me a great pleasure to welcome back Gianluca. How are you, Gianluca?
Thank you so much for having me. Very, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to make you panelists. You should now be able to have control of the screen. Yeah, so I think we're seeing your screen now. Hey, Gianluca, just let you know, I don't think we can hear your audio. Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me loud and clear? Yeah.
We can now. I think we lost your audio. So if you just want to start at the beginning and
all right.
yeah,
Super.
Get back up the slides and then dive into it, and we should be good to go. Thank you.
All right, perfect. For those of you who couldn't hear this, I was just saying, today we're gonna discuss on how we can create a full funnel strategy to boost our performance on Google Ads. And we're gonna talk about the following topics. First of all, why this approach makes sense. The second point we're gonna discuss today, it's what do we need in order to get started. And then we're going to focus on three different portions of our marketing machine: content magnets, scoring system, and the nurturing machine. And then the last part, we're going to see what are the actual targeting methods that we could do in order to start driving traffic for each portion of the funnel. But before we dive into the details, let me introduce myself. My name is Gianluca Binelli. As my accent, name, and appearance will probably give out, I'm Italian. And I'm working at a company called Boosterbox. We are in sunny Tuscany, the most obvious place from where to run a tech company. I worked for many years at Google. I was running, I was part of the team that was running paid media for Europe. So I've been promoting Google products across, Google, Facebook, different channels in Europe. And I spend a lot of money there, mostly in the wrong direction, but a small portion of that worked. So that's sort of the experience that I want to share today. And that's what I do. At Boosterbox, we like to call ourselves the best scientific performance marketing agency, which is a mouthful just to say that we really, really love numbers, and we're focusing on a quantitative approach when it comes to paid media. All right, now that we've done the introduction, let's discuss on why a full funnel approach makes sense. And in order to get there, I want to share a little story. Around the year 1200 before Christ, the Polynesian started exploring the southern eastern Pacific Ocean. So, they left Polynesia with small boats, and the first expedition settled in a small group of islands that is now known as Rapa Nui or Eastern Island. There's a movies in the 90s that is called Rapa Nui about this story. And when the first Polynesian group arrived, they found this beautiful place, lush and full of trees, and they started populating the islands in the hundreds. So they started really taking advantage of the beautiful island. So the population started growing and growing, and obviously they started to use the trees to build boats, build houses, harvesting the crops, and starting erecting beautiful statues that are still there on the island. So while they were harvesting these trees and planting new trees to build, and that ended up ruining the ecosystem and obviously had an impact on the population. So the island ended up being largely deforested. The loss of large trees, it meant that residents couldn't build new boats, no vessel, nor going fishing, and it really impacted the population growth. So population started decreasing. Scientists, when the English actually arrived on the island, archaeologists found that according to the estimation that the English made when they arrived on the island, the population was only in dozens of people. So obviously, cutting the trees in order to build these fantastic statues didn't really work out as a great strategy for sustainable future on the island, because they forgot to plant new seeds. So what does this Rapa Nui settlement has to do with what we're discussing today? Because we are trying to today to mix a different approach. What we often do when it comes to paid media, we are harvesting, right? We're focusing on the bottom part of the funnel. We're focusing on Google search on users that already have made up their mind, they already want our product, and obviously we're starting from them. But we need to remember the importance of planting new trees if we want to build a sustainable operation, and if we want to make sure that we are continuing to build our brand equity. So, to step beyond the analogy that we're doing now, planting new trees means how do we bring new users beyond those that are already decided to buy our product. So this is how we see the word. So in the presentation that we're using today, we're gonna define tofu, mofu, and bofu when it comes to funnel. Now, there are many approaches when it comes to using a label system to describe the concept of funnel. And probably if you ask 100 companies, you get 100 answers. But the tofu, mofu, and bofu approach is one of the most popular. You can call it whatever you want, but the real point is there are certain humans up here. Sorry, I'm just going to use the pointer. There are certain humans up here. These are the tofu. These are the people who don't know our brand and are either not aware of a specific problem that we're trying to solve for them, or maybe they do perceive the problem, but are not actually actively searching for a solution. And then we can move to the mofu. So tofu stands for top of funnel and mofu for middle of funnel. Users in the middle of the funnel are aware of the problem that they need to solve, and they are actually searching for the solution. So we could see this as a stage of learning. And then we can move to bofu. Bofu as bottom of the funnel. These are users that already have found the solution, and hopefully this is our product or service. So up here, we're more in a branding game. Down here, the name of the game is more direct response. Not always, but often when we talk about funnel, we forget a very important part of the funnel, meaning the fourth step, the retention, the non-customers. There are many researches that are showing how retaining customers is sometimes even more important than acquiring new customers. But sometimes as marketers, we forget that, and we're focusing more on the acquisition, and we tend to neglect a little bit the retention. But actually, the retention is a very important element. because we all know that retaining customers is often cheaper than acquiring new customer. There's a study from Bain that calculated that increase in customer retention rate by 5% will translate in increasing profits oscillating between 25 to 90%. So that's obviously telling that customer retention is key. So obviously, to simplify, we can imagine that branding is more up here in the TOFU stage, direct response is more in TOFU, and then retention is focusing on the existing customer. The first thing that we want to do is to start on the bottom of the funnel. So where do we need to start? We need to start on the direct response. Why? If you are a very small, medium companies, or even if you are an enterprise, there's probably somebody that is approving budgets, right? It could be your boss, it could be your client, it could be, if you're in an agency, it could be the rest of the internal organization. And starting from the bottom of the funnel, in my experience, represent a very practical approach for a very simple reason. It's just easier to start on a smaller budget to prove your results and then to gradually scale your operation, then starting from the top of the funnel. So, you could see it like that life, it's already very complicated. So let's start by the part that is actually easier. If we're starting on the bottom of the funnel, and we're gonna see how we can actually go and target users that are on the bottom of the funnel, if we're starting on that part, we are increasing the likelihood of getting a positive response and positive return on the investment from our campaigns. And then we can use this initial positive results to fuel, to gain momentum internally in our organization if we are a large enterprise. So there is a little bit of a political game. If you are on a small SMB, maybe there's no political conversation, but we need to be maybe a little bit more focused on making sure that we are always ROI positive. In both cases, starting from the bottom tends to be a better approach because it's bringing smaller results, but faster and getting sooner to profitability. Now, this is the opposite that we all learn at business school, right? In business school, you always learn to start from the classic top-down approach, the AIDA model, where you start from the awareness and then you trigger interest, blah, blah, blah. So start bringing people up here and then to gradually move them down. Forget about that. Focus instead on the bottom of the funnel. Flip the funnel and focus first on those users that are easy to convert, and then gradually move up. So that is rule number one. Obviously, there are different campaigns to serve each user type. So brand campaigns, spellings, campaigns where you're focusing on your top products, or campaigns where you're focusing on the long tail. These are all campaigns that are focusing on the bottom of the funnel, because these are campaigns where we're focusing on users that are searching for intent-heavy type of queries, right? Imagine, probably this most simple example. If somebody's searching already for our brand, they already made up their mind, and it's very likely, or at least it's more likely, that they're gonna convert as opposed to someone that is searching from a generic keyword. Similar things, if somebody's searching, if we're on e-commerce and we're selling Ray-Ban glasses, if somebody's searching for Ray-Ban Wayfarer black glasses foldable, this person knows the product very well. She has been already through the learning phase. She decided that she wants this specific product, so we can expect better conversion rate from this type of users. As we move up, we can move up to more display type of campaigns in the learning phase, so in the middle of the funnel, and more generic keyword and broader type of campaigns when we're going up to the top of the funnel in the TOFU. We're gonna get back to details in this slide a little bit later, but I wanted to reassure you, the goal of the presentation today is to tell you exactly what type of campaigns, generally speaking, so this is not applicable to 100% of the cases, but in my experience to the majority of the cases, what type of campaign are more suitable to talk to users in 3 different stages of the funnel. The second ingredient that you need. So the first ingredient was starting from the bottom of the funnel and gradually move up. The second ingredient we might need is actually that we do need is remarketing. A classic promise that we're getting every time we talk about remarketing is, you had a 2% conversion rate. So 98% of your customers came on your website and left. So just follow them all and you're gonna win back more users. Now, that is not wrong, but it's a bad way to do remarketing. A better way to do remarketing is actually to ignore those that are potentially uninterested in our product. So a smarter way to do remarketing is to split out of these 98 users that didn't buy our product on the first time. Let's try to isolate the 18% where actually we have a chance to win back. So the name of the game here is how do we filter out the uninterested? How do we filter out those where not only we paid once in order to win the first click, but we had to pay twice to win the second click, and still they wouldn't convert. So it doesn't make sense to focus on the uninterested. So how do we go and isolate the good part of the remarketing? Traditionally, there are two ways to do that. By layering two different metrics. The first one is the behavior on the website. So you can take the depth of visits if you are on e-commerce, or the time on site. It's really any metrics here that is proving to have a positive correlation with your conversion rate. Let's take depth of visits because that's tend to be true for most businesses out there. So what I mean here is user A was on the website and she went down to the shopping cart. That a user with a depth of visit that is up here, that is higher, as opposed as a user who's, maybe it's only visiting the landing page, the home page. And on the other axis, we're looking at recency. So users that are recent, they will tend to convert more. So it's very important when it comes to remarketing that we're focusing on users that are recent and with a visit that went really in depth. So user A, she was yesterday on the website and she went all the way down to the shopping cart. It's more important and it's more likely to convert when showed some remarketing ad, as opposed a user B that was on our website a month ago and was maybe only on the home page. So this is the traditional approach when it comes to remarketing optimization. But I want to introduce a new concept, the layering with first-party data. One thing that we can do here, sorry, I extra click for the excitement. Another element that I want to introduce for this conversation today is not only to consider users that are recent and went in depth of the website, but also to consider the similarity of these users against our first-party data. So you might be familiar, if you are Facebook users, with the Lookalikes. The Google version of Lookalikes are similar audiences. So the idea here is to overlap, to create list of users that are recent and went in depth on the website, but overlap that with a third dimension, which is the similarity of these users compared to our existing top customers. So while in a normal approach, we would prioritize a recent user that was on that with a depth of visit, we will do another extra layer of prioritization if this user is also very similar to our top existing customers. So if we're doing a good job injecting first-party data into our Google and Facebook, we can use this type of approach, and we open up a third dimension when it comes to remarketing. The third ingredient that we need is exactly this one, lookalikes, right? So how does it work injecting first-party data? Let's say we are going and we acquire customer. We are putting all this data in our CRM. We're gonna have a scoring system. So my suggestion is to use a simple RFM segmentation in our CRM. it's usually something very, very effective. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. CRMs have been around for the last, I have no idea, but probably 20, 30 years. So there's a lot of knowledge on how to do customer segmentation when it comes to CRMs. So take any segmentation model that you want here. RFM, I think it's really cutting the mustard. And you can use that for a scoring system. In the RFM, you will identify, for instance, your top customers, those that are coming frequently and they buy items with a higher monetary value. So let me take that for simplicity on the example. So at this point, we're gonna go and push these segments in audiences. By using customer emails, we're gonna upload to Google and Facebook the emails of those users in our top segments. And then we can connect them to the right type of creative, right? So let's say we're on e-commerce selling sunglasses, and we notice that our top customers are buying sunglasses that are particularly pricey. Then obviously we can show, if we are running campaigns on lookalikes based on this customer, we can show a creative that is more appealing to this type of customers that are more willing to spend. For instance, we can show a certain type of image assets that is more appealing to this user, or more a simpler example probably could be we can showcase items that are a little bit more pricey. So that will allow us to reach the right user at the right time with the right type of ad. So when we are at this point collecting information when a user is converting, obviously we're pushing this information back into our CRM. So that is the third ingredient on what we need, which is really connecting our remarketing efforts to first-party data. All right. In order to do that, we have developed a robust methodology for prioritizing the right level of seed. And you want to do something like that, right? There's a lot of theories out there on how far you should go with the creation of your lookalikes on Facebook. On Google, you don't have the same level of granularity, but if you already have an approach on Facebook, you can duplicate the same approach also on Google. The main point here is you want to make sure there's some thinking in the prioritization. So high LTV customers obviously would be more of a priority of customers that maybe are cherry pickers, right? Those that are coming only for Black Friday or whenever you're running a promotion. So the main point that I want to make here is that not all LTV is the same. You actually have top customers and you have customers that are only coming for a promotion. So make sure that you are injecting this information back into your marketing operation. All right, so these are the three ingredients that we need. Let's go to see what are the content magnets. And then I'm trying to paint a picture focusing first on each element of the funnel, and then we're gonna try to wrap up everything together and see how everything works out together. Now, I want to share a life hack with you. Do not propose on your first date. That works every time we talk about marketing, but in general, in life. What does that mean? Exactly as we wouldn't go and probably propose on a first date. We need to make sure every time we're reaching out to users that are not yet as familiar to our brand as user in the bottom of the funnel. So whenever we want to move up the funnel, we need to start building content magnets, meaning we need to build pieces of information that we can go and share with users with the goal of convincing them. If I say educating them will sound a little bit patronizing, but sometimes, especially for complex B2B product, probably that is correct. The main goal is to gradually introduce users to content that is more informational rather than transactional. To do so basically not proposing on a first date means not selling directly to users in the top of the funnel, in the FDOFU, or in the MOFU in the middle of the funnel. In order to build up content magnet, we need two things. We need a content marketing system, but also we need a scoring system. I want to zoom in on the scoring system. By scoring, I mean, we need to understand when our user is ready to move from one phase to another phase. So we need to learn when it makes sense for us to propose, really. So assuming that we have a content magnet, right? So we have a white paper, we have a checklist, we have built out something that is informational, and we have, through a display campaign, for instance, deliver traffic to users that have then download our marketing material. What we can do at this point is starting building a scoring system. So for instance, if a user is downloading the first white paper, we can use this information to assign a score. Let's say we get a user, she clicked on the first ad and she's getting a score of 3. Then she's clicking another time in another ad, she's visiting the website for the second time, she's getting another 3 points. At this point, this is not enough for us to try to push with at this time 6 is enough for us. We know that she has been exposed twice to a upper funnel type of message. So we can try to offer a message that is more transactional. So we're gonna offer something that is more focused on closing the lead. And we're gonna get another 7 points. So the total score is 13, and the user is now ready to buy. So the scoring system is something, as you can see, very simple to explain, and it really means to have a methodology to understand when is the time to try to sell. The last part that we need, and then we're gonna see how everything actually sticks up together, is a nurturing machine. Nurturing means there are 2 ways we could do that. On one side, we can rely on our email marketing program, and on the other element, we can use our sales organization. Once we have built a program in order to get leads, there are many softwares out there that are doing a really good job in connecting the leads that we have received through an email marketing program, right? So we can send a bunch of newsletters that are timed, a first message immediately, then after 3 days, we're sending another promotion, then after 7 days, another promotion. There's plenty of automation that we want to use there. The benefit of this type of approach is that once we acquire the first lead, we will gradually nurture it. Another element that we can use, and this is more relevant often if we're in a B2B organization, is to leverage the sales organization gradually. So one mistake that I've often noticed is companies that are getting a lead from an ebook that doesn't necessarily means that the customer out there is super ready to buy, and are passing immediately this information to sales, and sales obviously will go straight for the blood and try to close the contract immediately. This is not necessarily the best approach. So I think it's important here, whenever we're passing this list to sales, making sure that they know that these customers are still in the information phase. And then this type of sales here that we want our sales colleagues to do needs to be more of a consultation rather than starting to close the contract directly. So far, what we're discussing has been very simple. Let's try to review it, and then we go to how the actual campaign work out together. So first of all, we have seen that we need to start at the bottom of the funnel. Then we have seen that we need remarketing, and we need to have a machine where we're connecting our CRM data into Google and Facebook so that we can use lookalikes. Once we have done that, we need to have some content system. So we need to have, some content assets. If we have a blog, a series of ebooks, etc. We need to have developed a program to understand when customers are ready to see our ad, and we need to have some sort of nurturing machine. Once we have all of that together, we are now ready to go and use Google Ads for an actual full funnel type of approach. Sorry for skipping one media slide. All right, let's go and target these users. So as we mentioned earlier, we have different type of campaigns to serve each different user type. Brand campaigns and misspelling campaigns. Let's start by these two type of campaigns. I'm gonna stay a little bit longer on this slide. I apologize, there's gonna be a lot of talking and not that many images here, but bear with me for a minute. Now, misspelling campaigns on Google Ads are something that is probably way less important than it used to be a couple or 3, 4, 5 years ago, because now if we're running most of our operation in exact match, now exact match is also including the close variants. So brand name misspelling really in 99% of the cases would be one thing. Running our brand campaigns, it's the eternal question. It's one of the eternal question of PPC. Do I need to build my own brand? This is a question that your boss probably asks you 100 times. Your clients, if you're on agency side, also ask you 100 times. I don't have a conclusive answer. If anyone is interested, I can share the research that we have been running. But let's take for a minute, for the sake of the argument, that it does make sense to bid on your own brand. Definitely brand campaigns are very intent heavy. So if you start bidding on brand, that's a very fast way to get good ROI. But that is easy, obviously. So let's move to other campaigns that are a little bit more challenging. Shopping campaigns. If you're running an e-commerce operation, shopping campaigns obviously are the bread and butter of your e-commerce operation when it comes to Google Ads. And shopping campaigns tends to be particularly effective when it comes to targeting users in the bottom part of the funnel. Why? Because shopping campaigns, for two reasons. Number one, machine learning. Especially if you're using target ROAS, we found at Boostable consistently performance with target ROAS that we're getting from Google itself to be quite effective. So I encourage you guys to go and test target ROAS as a bidding strategy here. Element number two is what we said earlier with the example of the Ray-Ban Wayfarer or whatever they're called. People that are searching for specific product titles, specific product names, they will see our shopping ads. Obviously, there's another element that explains probably the performance of shopping campaigns. Two probably other elements. One element is the fact that not every user knows how to run shopping campaigns, right? Despite shopping campaigns seemingly be super easy, you just connect your feed and you let Google run the magic. Actually, there's a lot of work and a lot of optimization you could do in order to make your shopping campaign better. So if you know what you're doing when it comes to Google Shopping, it's easier to do to outsmart the competition. The second campaign is something simple and practical. The fact that the shopping ads appear with a lot of assets on Google search because there's an image there. So usually you get a lot of traffic. So definitely shopping campaigns, if you're running an e-commerce, are an obvious choice. And I suggest testing target ROAS. But together with shopping campaigns, one important thing that I suggest testing are the so-called long tail products campaign or inventory campaigns. Here, what I mean by that is to go and take the product titles as they are defined in your Google Shopping feed and to go and bid exactly on the product titles. Here, what we're trying to do is to double serve. So we're trying to appear for the same query, both with a Google Shopping with a Google Shopping ad and with an ad on Google search. Now, if some of you are a little bit more experienced with the Google policy system, when I say double serve, that's, it's ringing, there's an alarm ringing somewhere. So obviously double serving with Google Shopping and Google search at the same time is okay. And we're doing all of this in compliance with Google policy, because what we want to do here is to make sure that if a user is searching for a product title, we also appear with the right search ad. You can expect from this campaign in the intent phase. Overall, low volume, but great ROI. So pretty much like anything in life, if it's good, makes you fat or something like that. So the upper you go in the funnel, the more quantity you get, but obviously you get lower quality, right? But we're starting on the bottom of the funnel. So we're gonna go first for quality. Another type of campaign that is a little bit useless now, it's similar to the misspelling campaign. So it's something that made sense in most market probably a couple of years ago, less now, but I don't know where you are, in which geography. And I think it's still something cool to keep in mind in case Google changes again in the future. One element that we used to do was a lot of EAN codes campaign. These are the product codes that we're giving to the shopping feed. So if somebody is searching for the product code of the Ray-Ban Wayfarer black glasses foldable, for sure, this person has been doing a lot of homework when it comes to deciding that he wanted to buy exactly that specific product, because that person went through even learning what the product title was. That was a strategy that was extremely interesting because we're getting a lot of volume, often even selling items that were B2C, we're getting volume from B2B customers. So, you know, if you're selling sunglasses, you will get a shop searching for EAN codes and buying dozens of them. But Google got way smarter in the last couple of years. And now when you search EAN code, Google is also triggering all the other products. So on search. So it's basically equivalent. When you're searching a EAN code, Google knows it's just like bidding on the same long tail title. So this is a campaign that is less effective, but it's a dusty strategy that is good to remember. To close the point on the intent campaign, another two really cool intent campaign in our remarketing. We mentioned that is an essential element of our operation, but also remarketing lists for search ads. The strategy that you want to use when it comes to remarketing lists for search ads, there's only one strategy that actually hits home and is bringing a lot of volume, which is using remarketing lists and overlapping them with very broad keywords. I think that's a strategy that was popularized first by Larry Kim. What I mean here, let's say we are back to our sunglasses e-commerce example. If we are selling sunglasses, we will never go after the keyword gifts because it's just too broad, right? But if someone was already on our website, it does make sense for us to continue the story when he's searching for the keyword gifts. So for this type of campaigns, we want to go and target very broad keywords and overlapping them only with the users that have been on our website. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep in explaining everything for the learning and the ignorance, but I want to share at least three main points. Number one, usually we get to build learning campaigns, MOFU campaigns and TOFU campaigns after a while. So after a couple of quarters that we started our paid media operation. So bear in mind, first, that will be our baseline. We have proved we have the basics right. We have proved that we're getting maybe limited volume, but a real nice ROI. Once we're good with that, we can go and start building some generics campaign. So search campaigns that are not necessarily overlapping with audiences, but we're going and targeting keywords that are representing our categories. So back to our case, if we are an e-commerce that is selling sunglasses, it will be the keyword, I don't know, black sunglasses or foldable sunglasses, something like that. There are another couple of strategies that I want to underline in this part here. And particularly is the usage of the in-market, the similar list for search ads, and generally speaking, overlapping audiences with keyword. That is something that I definitely recommend doing. So if you need to pick between targeting the keyword foldable sunglasses or foldable sunglasses only for users that are very similar to our top customers, obviously you will want to start from the second bucket because these users are more likely to convert. So this second strategy is a strategy that still today
I don't see everyone doing. And I think Google made a really long way in the last year, probably, on in-market. And that's definitely something you guys should take advantage of.
Gianluca, I think your audio might have cut out for a moment. If you can just check your mic, please. Yeah, we still can't hear your audio, unfortunately.
Display. So make sure
There
that
we
you're
go.
running display. Sorry.
There, we can hear you now. Yeah, perfect.
Sorry, there was something. When did you guys lose me?
About a minute ago. So I think I think you've done most of that slide, but we just missed about the last 60 seconds.
All right. The long story short, when you run display, run it for upper funnel. Do not run this type of display contextual topic affinity with the goal of selling. Run it with the goal of winning a click and then remarket to these users. So in conclusion, to wrap this up, what you should remember when developing your full funnel strategy. Number one, start easy and then complicate it later. So start on the bottom of the funnel. Element number two, make sure that your marketing machine it's ready to close the loop, which means make sure you have a lot of remarketing. It doesn't make any sense to go up here in the funnel if you don't have already a remarketing in place that is going to close the loop and take these users, gradually bring them back down in the funnel. Point number three, make sure you leverage your own data first. Through customer matching, uploading your offline conversion, you are in a position where you can build smarter lookalikes. Last point, remember, do not propose on your first date, meaning do not go to the user that are upper funnel to sell them, expecting the same results that you're getting with these campaigns in the bottom of the funnel. That's it. If you have any question, you can email me at growth@boostapproachdigital.com. I'm gonna stop presenting.
Awesome. Thanks,
Paul, do you wanna
Gianluca.
take it back?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take it back. It'll be 1 second. There we go. And we're gonna share my main screen. Cool. So thanks for that presentation. That's a really good overview of the funnel there, and lots of really positive feedback. So thank you, everybody. I think there's a lot of people found that really interesting. So we're going to get to Q&A in a minute, but just a couple of things for everybody. Some comments are asking if there's like a slide deck or a written version to go back up the video. So yes, if you go to AdEspresso.com, you can see in our Academy there, we've got the blog, and we've got an article there by Gianluca, just published a couple of days ago, basically a written version of this. So recommend checking that out. And then if I just go into my slides here, so a lot of people asking the Q&A, they might not have joined us at the beginning. Are we recording? Just a reminder, yes, we are. We're trying to send everybody a copy by email, but sometimes they just don't arrive. So if you just go to adespresso.com/webinars, then you can get your copy there, or go onto YouTube and search for the AdEspresso channel. So little thank you for everybody for joining us. Little incentive for you. You can get a free 14-day trial and 30% off AdEspresso. Just go to adespresso.com/AE webinar. And then if you're interested in like taking this further, maybe you found this advice really useful today, but you think that you need some extra help there. The AdEspresso team, we've got what we call our services team, and we can give you help with tactical reviews. They're called our campaign reviews. We can do one-to-one power hours, and we've even got a concierge service. where we can run the ads for you. We do that for Facebook and Instagram ads and also on Google. So that's something that you might be interested in there. You can just drop me a message, paul@adespresso.com, or you can see on our adespresso.com tour page, there's more details about that there, but basically just reach out to us. And then a little plug for the next webinar. It's we kind of flip-flop between Google and Facebook. So the next one's going to be presented by myself, and we're switching gears going to Facebook. We're going to be talking about some retargeting strategies. So that's going to be your BOFU, your bottom of the funnel for Facebook ads there. So if you want to register for that, completely free as always, usual link adespresso.com/webinars. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions there, I'm going to read some out for you, Gianluca, in a second. So I'm just going to switch back to your slide deck. I've got a copy here because there was a couple of questions. So let's see if we can just pull this up for everybody. Okay. So the first is just a technical question. Somebody was asking if you could just define like DSA, GSP, and RLSA. So if you could just give everybody a reminder about that one, please.
Sure. First of all, everyone, I apologize for the line not working. So you couldn't hear me for a minute. I just realized I've been delivering this chat connecting to the same Wi-Fi we have for the printer. So that's surprising that actually this thing works. Anyways, so apologies for that. Now, DSA stands for Dynamic Search Ads. That is a really quick way to run your campaigns. And GSP stands for Gmail Sponsored Promotion. These are the ads that are appearing in your Gmail as format. Now, GSP used to be a format that worked very well a few years back. To be honest, I don't have empirical evidence that are recent on that. I haven't been testing that out that much, so I'm not really sure on the efficiency that we have now. So that's why it's there, but you're more than welcome to test it and let me know how that works out for you. DSA is a double-edged sword, I would say. It's a tricky beast because DSA campaigns, the way it works, you will give Google a URL and Google will run the magic, the end. Now, obviously on the plus side, you gave Google a URL, you left the office early and you're home early for dinner tonight. Meanwhile, you launch your campaign. On the negative side, you have no idea what Google is going to do with that URL. So imagine if you're selling, that's a no-no if you are in a highly regulated industry. Let's say if you are credit card, loans, things of that nature, then absolutely not an option for you. But if you are in an industry that maybe doesn't have that strict level of regulation, such as bank application, stuff like that, then you could dare a little bit more. One approach that I found useful is to overlap DSA with RLSA. So you are telling Google, hey Google, that's the URL on my website. Cool, go and run your magic, but run your magic, meaning build up a keyword list that is imaginary based on the information that are in this URL against only this specific list of users on my remarketing list, on my audience, on my similar users. I think that, for a fact, the empirical evidence I collected with my colleagues is that the second type of approach will work better, obviously on a smaller scale.
Awesome, thank you. And just another little question on this slide deck. So I was asking, sorry I didn't catch the name here because I've got hundreds of questions here. But someone's asking about this remarketing kind of 18%, like how precise is that? Is that like a set formula? Or is that just
you're right. The 80, so first off, I think the only element that is precise-ish here is the fact the average conversion rate is between 1 to 2%. So the numbers that are there are dummy numbers. I apologize, I should have specified. If you want to adapt that with your own reality, 1 minus your existing conversion rate is the equivalent of the 98. And then within that, apply a classic Pareto, 80-20, 20% of your 98 is the element that you want to win back. So you can use these numbers as directional, but it could be 18, it could be 20, 21, 15, the good part of remarketing. It doesn't really matter. What it matters is the advice that you always hear when it comes to remarketing is just follow everyone. It just doesn't work, because first off, you are following people that didn't convert the first time, right? So you paid once to get people on your website and you didn't do a good job in converting because maybe they just were the wrong users, and it's okay. Two, out of some of the users that you're going after and you're remarketing to them, maybe some of them would have come back anyways, right? So what is the portion of remarketing that is really incremental? So now, while the second part of, the incrementality of remarketing is something, the approach that we are sharing today doesn't necessarily solve, the first part is something that we need to take in consideration. We always talk in marketing land about impressions, but we forget that the word impression, there are also bad impressions, right? So when we go out there and we keep remarketing users to death, not only we're doing something that is damaging our ROI, but also we're doing something that is a bad impression, that it's damaging our brand. That's why I think it's particularly important to focus only on users where we reckon that remarketing is adding a value, right? That if the user that we said earlier in the example, she was on our website up into the shopping cart, and then whatever, like there was someone ringing at the door to do a delivery, and she forgot about completing the transaction. If we're showing up the following day and we say, hey, your product is still there, finish up the transaction, we're doing a service. So it's the same old story. We are doing a better job as marketers if we're focusing on doing what is relevant and useful for our customers.
Excellent. I have to 100% agree with that. Where people seem to really hate, when you tell them that you're a digital marketer, where they really hate ads is where remarketing ads are done poorly and they're just stalked relentlessly across the web. So I think that's really important there. I've actually got a question for you now, because it's a question that I get asked all the time in coaching, and I'm also preparing for our Facebook remarketing webinar next month. And the question I always get asked is, how much budget should you have for each stage of the funnel? So just any kind of broad thoughts that you've got on that for us, Gianluca?
Wow, that's a tough one, mate. Okay, look, I'll tell you my view. So obviously take it with a pinch of salt because it depends on the lifespan of your business, blah, blah, blah. But what I would do is, if you're starting now and you really focus on cash now, harvest the trees. Focus only on the bottom part of the funnel to get through this quarter, and then we think about the future next quarter. In light of the COVID-19 situation that many businesses are living right now, that's a very practical way of seeing life. Focus on ROI now, so 100% of your budget on the bottom of the funnel. And that is an emergency type of approach. If it's not an emergency, and if we are okay in thinking about the future and we want to harvest, but we also want to plant seeds, then you can think of an 80-20 type of approach in the beginning. So make sure that you harvest as many users in the bottom of the funnel that you can, but at the same time, $1 out of $5 that you have to spend is going to go in the MOFU and in the BOFU, in the MOFU and in the TOFU, so in the upper part of the funnel, to build more, to plant new trees, so to build future brand awareness. Now, is that 20% scientific? Not at all. But still, it is a number that I would use as a starting point. The important things that I would take in consideration though here is think in terms of saturation. So first, let's say if you have $1 million to spend, you will try, but nobody knows your brand and nobody's searching for your products because it's such an innovative category that nobody's searching. Go first and try to saturate every single queries from users that are in the bottom of the funnel, but that wouldn't be enough to invest your $1 million, right? So that would be probably, I don't know, 100K, 200K, and then you have a remaining 80% to spend on the in the other part of the funnel. That's why it's very difficult to come up with one number for everyone, because it really depends on at what point of the life cycle of your company, your brand, your product you are. But these are two extreme examples, so you can use them to at least draw the extremes and trying to find something in between.
Excellent. And I mean, my kind of rule of thumb with Facebook is that the remarketing is going to be a lot less of the budget because it's a smaller audience, but that's going to give you ROI. So you kind of set your remarketing budget first and then work back from there to the other ones. Don't just kind of give remarketing the scraps, make sure you've got enough there. So a question from Mohammed and some other similar questions. People are really curious about how you would integrate your Google funnel with Facebook and Instagram marketing, which I know is a big topic, but for example, would you drive cold traffic to the website from Facebook and then remarket with Google, or would you do it the other way around or run both at the same time? Have you had any experience with these kind of cross-channel funnels at all?
That opens the big question on tracking and attribution, really. Now, I think what is really important is to have one consistent message, depending on the likelihood of the user to convert at different stages. So going back to the date analogy, right? If you are on date number 1 or date number 100, if you're proposing, the likelihood of acceptance will change, right? So outside this analogy, I mean, what matters is the number of the dates and not really the channels, right? So if you're focusing on users, let's say if you're only focusing on ILTV users, that potentially ILTV users, so users that went to the shopping cart and add on the shopping cart items above $100, right? And that's for you the definition of that's a good user, that's a high LTV users. Then what I would do is try to run a creative that is compelling to this type of users. Maybe, you know, obviously focusing on the specific product that they left in the cart, and we'll deploy that creative across networks. So on Facebook, Insta, YouTube, and the rest of the Google Display Network, trying to have a consistent type of message for those type of users. So back to the dating analogy, if you're at date number 1 or number 100, that's the difference, is the likelihood of your user to buy your product. Then if you're taking the date to a very cool restaurant or a shitty restaurant, the likelihood that she's gonna say yes at your proposal, it's not entirely dependent. Sorry, do not propose in a shitty restaurant. Probably this is a bad advice. I did propose in a shitty restaurant and she still say yes, but I don't think it's a scalable operation. But back to the question, the answer is yes. I will run both channels and focus on the type of users rather than the channel itself. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That's great, thank you. So last question that we've got dozens of questions. So also if you can give everybody your contact details again, in case anybody wants to reach out for any coaching. But yeah, kind of last question is just a broad one, combining several, where people are asking about what kind of lead magnets work, top of the funnel, what kind of remarketing offer works. So this is something I'll cover on the Facebook side next month, but just any kind of in the last minute, any kind of quick tips on, you know, do you give a percentage discount? Do you give free shipping? Or is there a certain lead magnet that you find works there?
Yeah, I remember there was a fantastic article from Google 500 years ago on this topic on some strategies. It depends what you reckon was the roadblock for closing the deal. And it's very difficult to summarize, but the arrows that you have at disposal are extra discount, or sometimes it's just a reminder. I found super effective, for instance, if you're a SaaS business and you're doing free trial, often I see companies that are running free trials, but they don't do free trial expiration type of reminders also on remarketing. So to have different lists where the ads are saying only 3 days, only 2 days, only 1 day left, I find them to be very effective. So discount, countdown, and another approach that you could try to do is also cross-selling with remarketing. We briefly spoke earlier about retention, but we didn't actually show you, sorry about that, any strategy. One thing I wanted to mention is you can also do remarketing for retention. So retarget users that bought your product more than 6 months ago and tell them to come back. Retarget user that bought product A, you also have product B that is complementary with product A, push that also through remarketing.
Yeah,
Sorry for the super quick question to answer.
That's really good, and it's something that you can do with dynamic product ads on Facebook as well. You can do cross sales and upsells. So just to round out, if you could give everybody your contact details again, or where they can find out more information, because we didn't get around to dozens of the questions. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. All right. So sorry again for connecting to the wrong Wi-Fi, and I appreciate everyone sticking around. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is, if you type my family name, it's easier. It's Binelli. Or if you want to email me, it's growth@boosterboxdigital.com, because boosterbox.com was super expensive.
Awesome, thanks for joining us today. It sounds like we're going to have to get you back for a ask me anything session sometime to go through the questions. But I really appreciate you joining us today, Gianluca, and thank you everybody for joining us. And have a good day, everybody.